Well, this is a new one. Hey folks, MasakoX here. Now, before we continue with this video, I am contractually obligated to provide you some puppy footage because I have talked about Upper for a long time and I haven't shown really much of it. So, here it is.
Upper, turn, 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 turn.
Now that segue actually has some relevance here. Much like puppy love, the relationship between Gine and Bardock is something that is often talked about and theorized, but never really explored in the official story, for obvious reasons, one being Toriyama's not really that good at it. Dragon Ball Minus did touch upon the notion that their relationship was different from other Saiyans in some way, but didn't go any further than them being friendly. Well, let's fix that, shall we? In this little bonus video to help tide you over on a Monday morning. So Masako, how did this idea come about? Well, it's all to do with my readings of Megane-chan 720's novelization of the Gine story, the playlist you can check out up top, and her adding a note to the bottom of chapter 25 to me, reminding me that I promised to touch upon their relationship prior to the planet exploding. And of course in typical "but Masako" format. Good point. We're going back to the first part and reminding you how this iteration of Gine's story began, and then going back a little further. You see, we have the Bardock special and then Dragon Ball Minus. Like I talked about in that first iteration of this What If, instead of choosing one story over the other, we instead at the start of this adventure meld the two together so that we had something that was of our own, that could include Gine, as well as the original Bardock from the 1990 special, the one that is most synonymous with the character, and I think everyone prefers. I mean, I'm not saying that the Broly or Minus version is bad or anything, it's just very, very different is all. In any case, this video is to go before the first part of this What If, something we really haven't done before, and something I am really keen to try out for some of the bigger What Ifs, to try and add some world building and setting the scene a little more than I could do normally. It's going to be really nice to go to town with this notion of Gine and Bardock's relationship in this What If universe. So let's go. Part 0 of this long legacy. In the world of the Saiyans, when it comes to the rank and file, society is pretty equitable. So long as you are strong and you can contribute to the working day of a typical Saiyan, then you are welcomed, you're part of the pack. It's like how we discussed in our Zenkai discussion from the other day. Saiyans that aren't part of the royal family would, like typical Neanderthals, have a pack mentality and aid each other in their conquest or goal so that everybody would prosper in the long run. However, there was a situation that caused a certain thing to be disrupted. There was a Saiyan out of place and causing their pack to struggle more than usual, that Saiyan being Gine. She had been assigned by the higher-ups to a duty with a pack of Saiyans to aid her in getting stronger, or to provide support in their conquest, or simply to just get rid of her. From the edict of King Vegeta's underlings, Gine had been put in the care of Bardock's battalion without him having a say. Despite his lack of royal essence, Bardock had shown quite a lot of potential and caught the attention of Cole's administrative team, and then later Frieza's. They deemed him effective and had fast-tracked him to the top, despite protests from the traditional Elder Saiyan elites that this Bardock had no business being here. He was a low-class born... Ugh. He wasn't an elite, and nor did he show promise when he first showed up. But orders were orders, and the father of Goku was, reluctantly, granted mid-class status, and leader of one of Frieza's Saiyan squads. Well, it turned out to be Bardock's Planet Elite Force. Then the results spoke for themselves, and loud protests from the elder elites became quiet grumbles of resentment behind closed doors. Either way, Bardock didn't care about what some old men had to say. He just wanted to do what he was born to do, and that was to fight. Even if it was for somebody else and less about his own personal satisfaction. However, there was something really odd. This new recruit in Gine was proving to be somewhat of an oddity. She was quite weak for a Saiyan, being charged for this kind of work. Her power level was about 400, 500, far lower than anyone else in his posse. Even the likes of Leek, that's from Minus by the way, was stronger than her. And Seripa, that's Farsha, was very keen to rag on her for being inadequate and took every single opportunity she could to trip Gine up whenever Bardock wasn't looking, thinking that he wouldn't notice. As far as she was concerned, Bardock was too forgiving and tolerant. But the truth of the matter was that his Planet Elite Force was all about teamwork and not trying to scupper each other. Bickering had no place in it. Clearly, Seripa forgot that. Toma, Bardock's second, was very quick to put an end to Seripa's antics overtly, to which the Saiyan was angry about. She then hatched a plan to get rid of this liability for good. As time progressed, Bardock started to feel things for this one. It was weird. He had courted with Saiyan women before, but those were casual couplings, more like flings instead of romances. I mean, romance had no place in Saiyan society, as conflict would spell disaster and demoralize all those who were affected by it. It was a complete waste of time. And this got under Bardock's skin, and he hated this feeling. It was affecting his game, but he didn't blame Gine for this. One night, it came into sharp relief for Bardock. On one particular mission, which had seen Gine hurt quite badly, she had had enough. She was able to heal herself up enough to head back to her pod under the cover of darkness whilst the rest of them were asleep. However, when she got to her pod, about to leave, someone was waiting for her there. Oh great, Seripa there to cause her grief as always? No, it was Bardock. Hey, I wouldn't get in this if I were you. Gine stopped and gasped. If you're trying to convince me to stay and fight, you can save it. I'm done with being on the front line. I'm not cut out for this. I know, Bardock smirked. I ain't trying to keep you here. If you want to go, go. I mean, you're right. This isn't the place for you. Gine was confused. Why was Bardock being so understanding? And why was his tone not angry, but suave? Why are you here then? She was trying to hide her reddening cheeks from him, but was failing terribly. Your pod's been tampered with. Take Seripa's instead. He gestures over to another pod before pointing out a hastily screwed on panel on the side of Gine's craft. Seriously? She was willing to go that far to get rid of me? Yep, laughed Bardock. Why are you finding this funny, Bardock? This isn't funny. It's cruel, simpered Gine. Bardock's expression changed from joviality to seriousness in a second. You're right. It isn't. It's just confirming what I suspected. I know my squad inside and out, and this is proof positive that you aren't suited for this. I don't want to see you distracting the other team members, but I also don't want to see you get hurt because of it. Gine gasped. This is quite the admission for a Saiyan. He cared about her safety in some way? You should go home, take up something else, and hey, when I get back, I'll come find you. He pats Seripa's pod, and then walks away without saying another word. Gine is left there, stunned. He kept his word. When the squad got back and Seripa got a dressing down for her sabotage attempt, Bardock found Gine and the two of them got to know each other some more. Now, this isn't your Earthling-type romance thing. Like I said, Saiyans don't do that sort of thing. Bardock is not some kind of Casanova person. He's a Saiyan grunt. But he was far better than your typical one, though. There was something different about him, and the two were drawn to each other. The two of them would hang out together, he barging into her place of work in the meatery and just whisking her away, despite her boss's protests. He just simply ignored them. His reputation was getting greater and greater by the day, and he was reveling in this. He could throw his weight around because, hey, he was Bardock. And oh yeah, he thought Gine was pretty hot too. I mean, that helped. He wasn't all that keen on her being weak and all and being kind of soft, but in the confines of Planet Vegeta, it wasn't really that much of an issue. It was strange of him to admit this. She was on paper a disgrace to the Saiyans, and most of the fighting examples exclaimed that to Bardock. They were confused as to why he was interested in her. Why are you hooking up with a puny waif? Surely that Seripa chick is more your style. Let's just say the complaints to Bardock's face stopped not long after that. It soon became background noise, far from Bardock's ears. Gine was very overwhelmed by all this attention, this level of defense from a very powerful fighter. One day, she asked him directly why he was continuing to fight her corner, despite him having no need to, her being nothing more than a preparer of food, one of the more menial tasks a Saiyan could do. Simple, because I want to. Gine found this simple sentence extremely sensual. Don't get me wrong, you're nothing like a Saiyan, really. Quite frankly, you get on my nerves sometimes with your meek attitude. You know what? I don't give a damn. You're far less annoying than those other Saiyans. I can't stand being in those mess halls anymore. It's all the same stuff being said over and over. Planets, fighting, conquests, of all sorts. I've heard it all before. Let's just say that I find you interesting. Bardock said this without looking at Gine, and just as well he didn't. He would have just been proven positive of her being meek. She was beet red right now. Later that night, they consummated that relationship for the first time. And I honestly wish I could describe it more, but, you know, Hashtag YT being YT. Maybe I'll find another outlet for it as a supplemental. What I can tell you now, though, is that what Gine felt. Something that she hadn't felt for a very long time. Not since she was a young girl. Safety. She felt safe with Bardock. Nobody would confront her for being weak anymore. As far as they were concerned, she was Bardock's woman, and that status was confirmed when it became clear that she was pregnant. As we know from Minus, Saiyan babies are placed in nursing capsules instead of being born au naturel. That whole thing, oh, that was in the past, that was archaic, far too laborious, and it took female Saiyans away from the battlefield. It's too much of a liability. So, thanks to the introduction of Cold Force tech, her unborn child was carefully placed in a capsule and soon developed into a healthy baby boy, what we know as Raditz. She sort of lamented this new advancement in technology. She kind of wanted to carry a child herself and blossom with radiance, feeling the beginning of a new life inside of her. Really show that she was loved by someone. Bardock, well, okay, I say loved. I mean as much love as you can get from a Saiyan, but oh well. Gine settled for the fact that she was pleased to be able to love a child with all of her heart. Having said that, it soon became clear that Bardock's reservations with Gine's meekness also extended to Raditz. Over the years, it became clear that Raditz wasn't destined to break through the ranks into the realms of the elites like he thought he would, especially when he got given the status himself. Bardock may have been different in some aspects to a typical Saiyan, but he was still a traditionalist in terms of his progeny. Raditz was okay. Nothing special, and that disappointed him. Gine started to see less and less of Bardock and spent most of her time with her son, as he grew into a bit of a eccentric, pompous boy, but he was also cautious, and it showed promise at the same time in the right circumstance when she thought about it. He was really resourceful. He might not be a team leader in the future, but he could definitely prove useful in a crunch. But this didn't mean that Bardock abandoned Gine. He was still attracted to her, and they soon had another kid, who we know as Goku, but was given the name Kakarot, of course. Bardock thought that, oh, Raditz was an anomaly. Surely this next Sprog would be stronger. No, he was even weaker. A power level of 2? Gine may have been alluring to him, and something a refreshing change of pace from a typical Saiyan. But when it came to siring offspring, she was no good. He felt conflicted now, and Gine could sense this. She tried to make him feel better, but one day, it proved too much. Bardock lashed out at her for being a waste of time, a waste of space, and calling her name after name after name, all of them vicious. He was taking his anger out on her, and she took it. She just stood there and took it, even though inside she was crumbling, her world falling apart. She remained steadfast though and true to herself. After all, it's what Bardock had been teaching her to do all this time, knowing her strengths and standing proud in what she believed in. She learnt well, and in the midst of her own idol going berserk on her, she didn't budge. It was only after he left and went on that fateful trip to Kanasa that she buckled, in private, with dignity.
"Mum, why are you crying?" said a concerned Raditz. "Is this about Kakarot?"
Gine wiped her tears and hugged Raditz, who was puzzled. No, he's just mad about work.
"I don't blame him. Things have been rather bad since Frieza took over. When I'm big and strong like father, I will give that oath a piece of my mind and do our race proud."
This said from a blusterous Raditz, which made Gine laugh. She quite frankly needed it. That was the last time she saw Bardock for a while, but a little bit of him was still there. In her sons, it was some kind of comfort. Now we get to where part 1 begins, but with some added context. Bardock buried himself into his team, trying to forget about his disappointing squirts and disappointing partner. And hey, with the sudden acquisition of clairvoyance, that was just the ticket. He was too wrapped up in trying to piece together the visions in his mind to care about anything else. And it also soon became clear that Frieza was up to something and that his people were in danger. When he returned, he knew that that time was fast approaching and his warnings needed to be heard, if anyone would listen, which they didn't. Despite his reputation being impressive, complacency and decadence had clouded his kin, just what Frieza wanted. They dubbed him mad and wouldn't listen to him at all. Now, Gine had just so happened to have been at the entrance to the mess hall, but Bardock had run right past her without even noticing that she was there. When he exited, he did notice. She called out to him and asked what had happened. "Oh, it's you. Like you care. Like anyone would care." "Bardock, tell me. What's going on?" He calms down in that second. Despite him seeing a weakling, her soothing eyes were enough to temper him still, just for a moment, to try and explain. She accepted it. What? You believe me? Gine nods. Why wouldn't I? You're the greatest Saiyan I know. If you're worried about something, it must be serious. Bardock was floored. He had spurned Gine for months now, and in this moment, despite him distancing himself from her, she stood by him. Normally a Saiyan would have just moved on to another suitor or mate, but this one, his wild expression then turned solemn. This is the end of us. Those people in there aren't worthy of being called Saiyans. They've grown soft and complicit. They think they're untouchable. And soon, he clenches his fist. They will pay for that. What do you need me to do, Bardock? I can fight if you need me to, Gine said with trepidation. Bardock then turned to her with a piercing look. No, you'd be killed in an instant. He thinks for a second. Where are the boys? Raditz is off work with Prince Vegeta's men, and Kakarot is still in his capsule. Still? He should have been out of there weeks ago. I should have known. He is too weak. But there's not enough time. Get Kakarot out of here. He should have had some chance of surviving off-world. Gine nods and runs back to their dwelling. One more thing. Find yourself somewhere to hide. It's gonna get ugly. Without another word, he disappears from view. She never saw him again. And so, we've caught up. Tune into part 1 for the rest. See you there.